up silt or kicking any sensitive aquatic life with your fins. If you need to make bottom contact, find a spot away from the reference line and free of sensitive aquatic life. As you begin to explore, relax and breathe slowly and deeply. It's harder for your regulator to deliver air as you go deeper, so swim slowly and avoid overexertion. This avoids overbreathing your regulator and demanding more than it can deliver. And it helps you conserve air. You use air faster on a deep dive, so check your air more often than you do on shallower dives. Plan your dive with ample reserve to return to the ascent point and make a safety stop. Use the air consumption calculation table in the Adventures in Diving manual or multimedia to help you plan your air use. You may make your deep dive along a wall, a sheer drop-off into very deep water. When diving along walls, watch your depth closely, since it's easy to descend without knowing it. You may find it easiest to stay about 3 meters, 10 feet above your planned maximum depth, giving you some room in case you accidentally descend a bit. Stay close to the wall. This provides a reference that helps you stay oriented. But remember that many walls teem with sensitive organisms, so be cautious not to bump into or damage them. It's wise to make a safety stop after any dive, but it's especially recommended when deep diving. In some cases, the recreational dive planner requires a safety stop. Make the safety stop ideally with your chest at the 5-meter, 15-foot point. And it's a good idea to review your dive plan to make sure you haven't accidentally exceeded your no decompression limit. If you have, you can simply extend the safety stop to cover the emergency decompression requirements. Note that planned stage decompression, such as in commercial and technical diving, is significantly more complex and has more potential hazard. Planned decompression is beyond the scope of this course. It's easiest to make the safety stop on a reference line. But as mentioned earlier, you can make a stop without one by closely watching your depth gauge and controlling your buoyancy. If you follow proper dive procedures and make safety stops, it's highly unlikely you will find yourself in a situation in which you've accidentally surfaced without making a required emergency decompression stop. If it were to happen, however, do not make any more dives. Alert your buddies and monitor yourself for signs of decompression illness. If any possible symptoms develop, breathe 100% oxygen and seek medical assistance immediately. Proper dive planning, following appropriate procedures, and staying within accepted limits make serious problems quite unlikely while diving. Nonetheless, it's worth noting a few potential problems and what to do if they occur. Some people find the first night and deep dives somewhat stressful, at least partly because they're new experiences. This isn't necessarily a problem, provided you manage stress appropriately. Your underwater navigation skills do a lot to reduce stress, because you'll feel more confident knowing where you are, and which way to go if you want to return to the boat or shore. Much of what you learn during the adventure dives prevents stress by removing its sources. For example, in the night adventure dive, you learn that it's recommended that you night dive at familiar sites with familiar equipment. Doing so reduces stress because you're not dealing with a new site or equipment in the dark. And making adventure dives with an instructor you trust reduces stress because you know you have an experienced professional at hand to guide you, to help you avoid problems, and to teach you how to handle common problems if they do occur. If a problem occurs, don't react blindly or instinctively. Stop, breathe, think, and then act. Most problems have simple solutions if you're properly equipped, if you've properly planned the dive, and if you stay within the limits of your training and experience. For example, if your light fails while night diving, simply switch to your backup and end the dive. No big deal. Respond quickly and appropriately to a small problem, and it won't become a big one. Suppose your backup doesn't work. Borrow your buddy's backup light and end the dive. If you become separated from your buddy at night, look for the glow of his light. If you don't see it, cover your light and look. If you still don't see it, look for no more than 1 minute, then make a proper ascent and regroup on the surface. Or if conditions are such that ascending where you are isn't ideal, such as if there's a strong current, be sure to agree on another way to regroup when planning your dive. If you lose track of where you are, consult your compass and natural references. If you're still disoriented, surface carefully and check your position. If you become disoriented during an ascent or descent, hang on to the reference line for a moment. That usually reestablishes your sense of direction. If you're away from the line, hold on to your buddy, or even yourself, and check your depth gauge. If you stay disoriented, it's usually best to ascend at a safe rate and end the dive. As you learned in your open water diver course, nitrogen narcosis is a potential problem during deep dives. Most divers begin to find narcosis noticeable between 24 meters 80 feet and 30 meters 100 feet. Narcosis isn't dangerous itself, but can cause a diver to react improperly or disregard safety procedures. Symptoms include inflexible thinking, poor judgment, a false sense of security, no concern for safety, euphoria, anxiety, or sleepiness. Look for inappropriate behavior, a short attention span, impaired attention to safety or stuporous behavior. Nitrogen narcosis is more likely if a diver overexerts underwater, if a diver doesn't have much deep diving experience, if a diver uses alcohol or other drugs that produce drowsiness before the dive, if a diver is anxious, or if a diver is fatigued. If you experience narcosis symptoms or see signs of it in your buddy, ascend to a shallower depth until symptoms subside, or end the dive. You can generally avoid significant narcosis symptoms by staying in shallower water, generally above 30 meters 100 feet. During your PADI open water diver course, you learned that holding your breath during ascent can lead to lung overexpansion injuries, and that exceeding dive table limits can cause decompression sickness. Together, both of these conditions are referred to as decompression illness. By breathing continuously and never holding your breath. By staying well within no decompression limits. By ascending no faster than 18 meters 60 feet per minute. And by always making a safety stop, the chances of experiencing decompression illness are remote. Nonetheless, since there's always some chance of decompression illness, even when you do everything correctly, it's wise to be familiar with decompression illness symptoms and first aid. And it's possible for a diver to make an error leading to decompression illness, which is in fact the most common reason recreational divers experience it. To minimize the probability of decompression illness, use the recreational dive planner accurately and stay well within its limits, or well within the limits of any other table or computer you use. And remember to ascend slowly, 18 meters 60 feet per minute or slower, or even slower if required by your computer. Keep a close watch on your air supply. Divers have experienced decompression illness after running out of air and ascending while holding their breath. As a certified diver, you're aware that you should never hold your breath scuba diving, but making sure you don't run out of air lessens the chance of disregarding your training in an emergency. There are 10 factors thought to predispose you to decompression illness. The more that apply to you, the more conservatively you should dive. Age is a factor, because as you get older, your circulatory system becomes less efficient, affecting nitrogen elimination. Fat is thought to hold more nitrogen than other tissues, so individuals with high fat-to-body weight ratios may retain more nitrogen. Heavy exertion increases your heart rate and circulation, affecting nitrogen absorption and release, And injuries or illness may also alter how your body handles excess nitrogen. Dehydration reduces the quantity of blood available to carry away dissolved nitrogen. And alcohol contributes to dehydration and also affects blood flow. Diving in cold water may cause restricted circulation, and a hot shower or bath immediately after a dive may also alter normal blood flow. Improper breathing, such as holding your breath, may affect nitrogen release and raise the risk of lung over